Hello and welcome back to Parc Fermé Parlay with Kieran Downey. We are here after the Belgian Grand Prix to break down what was quite a banger of a race, actually. To be honest with you, it was quite a banger. We got a very unexpected winner, which might all be for nothing. I'll come on to that in a second. It was a strategy-heavy race. Strategy-heavy. There was lots of undercutting, not so much on-track action. We did get some good overtaking at the back of the field. The front of the pack was all those pit stop strategy calls that really made that fight interesting. In terms of the overtaking, the majority of it happened down the long straight, to be honest. Down that Kemmel straight, the DRS open, lots of overtaking going into Lacombe. But apart from that, a very good race. And can I just say, we'll obviously get into it a little bit more when we come on to talk about him. But mega drive from George Russell. My God, that was amazing. He managed a one-stop race perfectly. Like, those last 34 laps on that hard tyre, I didn't think he was going to make it. I honestly didn't think he was going to make it. And him saying, I'll do a one-stop, I'm feeling good, put me on the one-stop. Him making that strategy call, just perfect. As I said, it could all be under threat. Obviously, after the race, his car was weighed by the FIA. It was then drained of fuel, weighed again, and it was 1.5 kilos below the minimum weight requirement set in the regulations. So it's been referred to the stewards for them to take into consideration and look into. And the regulations are fairly black and white on this, and it could mean that George Russell is disqualified, and that would mean Lewis Hamilton wins, Charles Leclerc moves to the podium, Oscar Piastri gets a P2. At the time of recording, right now, we don't know anything. However, if it does come out during the podcast at all, during the episode at all, we will obviously be talking about it because it is huge news. But as I said, a very good race. Now, before we get into the race and break down all the drivers' performances over the Belgian Grand Prix, I need a little bit of help from you guys. So in the description box below, there is a link that will take you to a Google form to rate out of 10 every single driver on their performance so far over the 2024 season. All 20 drivers ranked between 1 and 10, 1 being a pretty poor performance, 10 being stellar, amazing performances. Obviously taking into account how they started the year, where they are now. I might do one for teams as well, but I'm going to start with the drivers. And we'll look at it all in a later episode during the summer break. So the link is in the description box below. I would be much appreciated if you would fill it out. It's multiple choice, so just click anywhere between 1 and 10 for each driver, and then I'll compile it all together and we'll do a little mid-season driver ratings. But let's get into it. Let's start breaking down these races because we've got some chunky bits to talk about. So let's kick things off with the Haas boys and Kevin Magnussen, who qualified 17th, finished 15th. Nico Hülkenberg qualified 16th, finished 19th. I'll be honest with you, those Haas boys were nowhere to be seen. We seen Nico at the very beginning of the race because he was one of the first people to pit. He pitted on like lap 8. So that was a focus at one point. And then they were just nowhere. The only time you ever really seen them was when other cars in front of them had pitted and had to just maneuver their way past them. Not the result Haas would have wanted, not the result I wanted for Haas, not the result I thought Haas would have. I genuinely thought, you know, these boys will be able to get their way through. There's some great opportunities for overtaking, but they just didn't really have it this weekend at all, did they? A poor qualifying performance, poor race performance, they just weren't really there at all. And as I said, I kind of really want Nico Hülkenberg to be scoring as many points as he can because he's not going to have the opportunity really to next year because I can't see Kick-Cyber making massive improvements. In terms of Kevin, I'm not really that fussed either way. It is great to see him up there, but Nico's the one that I really want. I really want him to do well, and the pair of them just didn't have it this weekend. So Not great from the Haas boys. Moving on to the Kick Saubers, and Zhou Guanyu qualified 20th, started the race in 19th and did not finish. Valtteri Bottas qualified 14th, finished 16th. Quick one for Valtteri Bottas. Again, like the Haas boys, nowhere to be seen. I don't think they focused on Valtteri Bottas once throughout the entire broadcast. He was just nowhere to be seen. Again, the only time we ever really seen him was when he was getting overtaken by cars that were in front of him that had pitted, and they were just working their way back through the pack. I am a bit dismayed that Bottas has finished 2 positions behind where he started. At one point, I thought he was actually going to be in with a chance for getting a point. He was sitting that sort of P11, P12 area, and I thought, my God, we could get a Bottas point. But no. His teammate had a awful race. My God, I don't know what happened to him. Well, I do know what happened, but Zhou Guanyu started the race, was kind of there, and then just basically that middle sector came down to almost a complete stop on the track, and he just lost all engine power. I thought we were going to get a safety car. I thought they were going to have to neutralise the race because it looked like he wouldn't been able to climb back up the hill to get into the pits. He did, however, manage to. I don't know whether he Control-Alt-deleted something and managed to get on his way, but then retired the car pretty quickly. He had actually had hydraulic issues. Shame. It's always a shame when a driver DNFs, to be honest with you. And all right, now moving on to the Visa Cash App RBs, and Daniel Ricciardo, who qualified 13th, finished 11th, and Yuki Tsunoda, who qualified 18th, started 20th, finished 17th. Now, Yuki obviously started at the back of the pack because he did have a 60-place grid penalty, but that just means anything over a 15-place penalty, you just start at the back. Not great from Yuki, to be honest with you. Kind of expected him to be able to work his way through. He's finished behind a lot of cars that I don't expect him to finish behind. I do expect him to be able to work his way through a lot of those drivers. Like, he's finished behind Valtteri Bottas. I expect him to be ahead of Bottas. I actually expect him to be ahead of the Alpines. And just not there. Not there. And there wasn't really anything would lead you to believe that he was having a bad time. There was no radio complaints. There was no slow pit stops that I could see anyway. He was a driver that just wasn't really focused on. I just expected better from Yuki, to be honest with you. And at a time when there's a lot of talk about Perez and could he be bumped, and Yuki's saying, well, if he is getting bumped, why am I not part of the conversation to replace him? He needs to be doing better than P17. He's got an all right car. He needs to be doing better than that. And just a weekend he's going to want to forget. In those next 10 races, if Perez can't perform well enough over the next 10 races, Yuki better make sure he is on fire, on point, because that's the only way he'll get what he wants, and that is to move to the big Red Bull team. His teammate, Daniel Ricciardo, was just this close from getting points. I thought he was in for a point, maybe a P10, P9. I thought he was in for something, and it just didn't work out in his favour. But Natalie Pinkham spoke to him after the race, and he seemed very positive. He was in a positive mindset. He was like, we're making the right decisions. We're moving the right way. The car's feeling good. I'm feeling good. Although, I wish I could have been like this the entire year. And it was clear that in Canada, there was a lot of work to do. I mean, he went to China, got a new chassis. We thought, this is it, game on. He had a great time. And then it all just fell away from him again. And then he's had the odd little bit here and there. But as he said, it was Canada. He realised there was a lot of work to do. And he's obviously doing the work. He's getting better. He's not finishing way behind his teammate anymore. He's finished ahead of his teammate. If Yuki does finish ahead of him, he's not far behind him. So good improvements coming from Daniel Ricciardo, and will be interesting to see how he can perform for the rest of the year, over the next 10 races. Okay, quick update, breaking. The team representative from Mercedes was called to the stewards at 6:10, which is about 20 minutes ago. I don't know the outcome yet. It could be quite a late night for the stewards. Obviously the one-stop strategy would have had excessive tyre wear, so the weight of the tyres could be a contributing factor to Russell's car being 1.5 kilos underweight. I'm not saying it's the full thing, but it could be part of a few different things that have led to George's car being underweight. So that's where we're at just now. Again, I don't fully know what is the outcome, but I imagine it could be disqualification. Hang on, and hopefully we find out whilst we're recording and we can discuss. Where were we? Oh, Yuki Tsunoda. Yeah, I just need him to perform a bit better, to be honest with you. That's all I need. Okay, now Williams and Logan Sargent qualified 19th, started 18th, finished 18th. I couldn't tell you if I seen Logan Sargent once. Couldn't tell you. Honestly, I don't think he was. I actually don't think Logan. I don't think Logan or Kevin Magnussen or Valtteri Bottas were actually racing in Spa this weekend, because I could not see them at all. Do I expect much from Logan? Not really, to be honest with you. It is what it is. There's nothing to say about him. I don't expect him to do better. He can't really be doing any worse. The only person that finished behind him was Nico Hülkenberg. And so it's not as if he's not, there's been no issues, no problems. He showed up, he sat in a car, he raced that car, he finished where he started. So there you have it. His teammate, however, Alex Albon, who qualified 11th, started 10th, finished 13th. Alex Albon should have scored points this weekend, and I will stand by that. He should have finished in the points. There is no reason why he shouldn't. Is there a reason why he shouldn't have? Hold on, let me check my notes. No, I can't see there being any reason why Albon hasn't finished in the points. He obviously just wasn't quick enough. There was a beautiful double stacking of Albon and Sargent in the pits at one point, which was nice to see. They were basically just trying to get some undercuts done. As I said, that was a lot of the pit action, was just getting undercuts on other drivers. But yeah, just not the performance from Williams this weekend. To be fair to all the drivers, they are off the back of a pretty intense time. We obviously had a triple header, 1 week off, and then went into a double header. So I feel for them. They must be exhausted, to be honest. And I think this summer break's come at a nice time for them to just all recenter themselves and come back for the final 10 races and just hopefully absolutely nail it. All right, and moving on to the Alpines. Pierre Gasly qualified 12th, finished 14th, and Esteban Ocon qualified 10th, started 9th, finished 10th. Again, did Gasly race this weekend? Because I didn't see him. The only Alpine I seen was Esteban Ocon. I think Gasly actually pitted at one point and was mistaken for the Ferrari. The Deadpool livery looked stunning, to be honest with you. I just kind of expected a bit more from Gasly, to be honest with you. His teammate, Esteban, fantastic result, getting a point in. Esteban will be loving scoring points when Gasly's not. He'll be loving that he is leaving Alpine scoring points when he's been dumped by the team and the man that's remaining is not scoring points. He will be loving that. Yeah, brilliant result from Esteban. Absolutely brilliant. Now moving on to the Aston Martins, and Lance Stroll, who qualified 15th, finished 12th, and Fernando Alonso, who qualified 9th, started 8th, finished 9th. Decent race from Lance, one of the few drivers to actually make up positions. A lot of the drivers actually lost positions, to be honest, but yeah, all right from Lance. Fernando, very good weekend, I will say. Not very good, but decent weekend. Yeah, he started 8th, but he still finished within the points. He had some decent little battles on the go. As I said, there was a nice little battles between him, Esteban Ocon, Alex Albon, Daniel Ricciardo. Those 4 drivers were just kind of in the mix, and it was nice to see. That's where quite a bit of our overtaking was happening. Yeah, decent weekend for Alonso, and nice to see him scoring some points. I bet he'll be happy to be scoring some points. He's had quite a run of getting nothing. All right, now moving on to the big chunky parts of this race and the McLaren team. Oscar Piastri qualified 6th, started 5th, finished 3rd, and Lando Norris, who qualified 5th, started 4th, finished 6th. Great racing from Oscar Piastri this weekend. Oh my God, just amazing racing from him. I did not see it coming. He was absolutely brilliant. I actually thought he would go for a one-stop, to be honest. However, I should have known that he was going to do the two. He was asked, you know, are we doing plan A, plan B? He was like, no, plan A, which was obviously the two-stop. But at one point he pitted and came out behind Russell and just managed to nail that. He came out directly, like right behind Russell's car and just managed to sail on past. And he was on the hards and he was flying on them. Oh my God, he was nailing it. I was like, Jesus Christ. I thought he would just manage to sail his way through to the front of the pack and start leading the race again. He was setting fastest laps after fastest laps. He got past Perez. He was racing phenomenally well. And then towards the end of that race, when we were coming towards, you know, final lap, there was a bit of a battle between Mercedes boys, between George and Lewis, and Oscar was just gaining on them ever so slightly each lap, was just knocking that time down. And I was like, they are going to fight a little bit and it's going to slow them down. Oscar's going to come right up, and in the last lap and a half maybe, that's when Oscar's going to attack. And I generally thought Oscar was going to win the race at one point. He didn't. He finished P3. It's a fantastic result from him. He could still get P2 if George gets disqualified. Amazing, amazing racing from Piastri. And this is what I needed from Piastri. He is growing a little bit. You can see he's, you know, finding his flaws as a driver and just sort of smoothing them out. There was one flaw that was quite evident today. He carried way too much speed going into that pit box and nearly took his front jackman. That mechanic that was the front jack, he took some hell of a brunt when Oscar overshot the pit box, and just amazing to see that mechanic. I actually think it's his last day at McLaren. I think I heard somebody say it was his last day at McLaren, but brilliant racing from Piastri. It's great. I love watching Oscar Piastri racing. He is incredible, and he's going to become an unstoppable force, I think, down the line once he's, you know, rounded a few bits off. But yeah, as I said, just brilliant, brilliant, brilliant work from Piastri. There was a moment when he was behind, I think it was the Red Bulls, or was it the Mercedes? I can't remember who he was behind, but they pitted and it let Oscar into the free air. And then he was flying. Like, he literally got into the free air and then started setting purple laps. And at one point, his race engineer was like, don't know if I need to tell you this, but that was a purple lap. And then Oscar replied, being like, well, it goes without saying, clean air is king. And he's obviously correct. He was flying in that clean air. Who wasn't flying in dirty air was his teammate Lando Norris, who basically just kept getting stuck behind cars constantly. He had a terrible get off the line. Bad start, ruined his race from there. He even admits it. He was quite down in the dumps when he spoke with Rachel Brooks after the race. He got off the line badly, and that's where he dropped, I think, like 4 positions. Yeah, just not the race that Norris would have wanted. McLaren did also leave Lando out just a little bit longer, and he was losing mad time. Like, he was losing a lot of time. They had to pit him for hards as soon as they could, and they did, and he managed his tyres quite well, and then he pitted again and stuck on mediums, and he managed them quite well, and then McLaren came over the radio and was like, listen, these tyres are quite robust, like, go and attack. And he did, and off he went, and it was obviously a threat to Max Verstappen, because GP came over the radio and said to Max, like, you know, push on these tyres, push, because even Max could tell Lando was pushing behind him. Could he have gotten a better result? Yeah, of course he could have. But as I said, his race was kind of done after the first lap. He did do some great racing. He just got stuck. That McLaren doesn't really like getting stuck behind the dirty air. It doesn't like being led by another car. But yeah, decent weekend for McLaren, getting that third place trophy and those points, and there could be some more points on the way in a second place trophy. They also scored, we're expecting in the next 10 minutes to get a decision on Russell, and some very, very good points in the bag for the constructors. They are now, I think, 40 odd points behind Red Bull. That constructors fight is on. I don't know about the drivers. I wouldn't be so sure about the drivers, but the constructors' fight is definitely on. All right, now on to Ferrari, and Carlos Sainz qualified 8th, started 7th, finished 7th. and Charles Leclerc qualified second, started first, finished fourth. Well, first of all, Ferrari are now the first team to reach 10,000 championship points, so congratulations to them. Decent race actually from both of them, to be honest with you. As I said, there was a lot of strategy calls, a lot of undercutting here, there and everywhere that made it quite difficult, I think, for any driver to actually figure out what was going on, like how to fight. You were getting pulled in. I mean, like Lewis Hamilton was actually fine on his tyres, got pulled in to do an undercut. Do you know what I mean? It was all of that kind of stuff. So well done from both boys to be in the points. It's nice to see them both in points. I'll take a Charles Leclerc P4, about to be P3. He did lead, but Lewis Hamilton was just faster than him, to be honest with you. And it did look like at one point Charles Leclerc would just be on the podium, but it just didn't work out that way, to be honest. Neither of them had a bad race. Neither of them had any issues. There was no problems. They both just were good. Carlos has a very good strategically thinking mind, and he's able to make calls from the car. He was great. Charles was great. No notes. Just a solid weekend from Ferrari, and nice to just see them getting some points again. I've missed them getting points, to be honest with you. All right, moving on to Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton, who qualified fourth, started third, finished second, and George Russell, who qualified seventh, started sixth and finished first. Great drive from both of those drivers. Hamilton just managed to get Perez out of the way and then just managed to get past Charles. Brilliant racing from him. He was fast, he was quick, and actually, had George not made the decisions to go long, it was Lewis's race to win. And Lewis, he's quite upset by it. He said in the post-race interviews, he basically said, you know, George wasn't in my race. I don't understand really how this has happened. Like, it's great for the team, it's great for George, well done, whatever. But I don't understand how this has happened, how my strategy, how he just doesn't get how it's happened, and he's pissed about it. Like, last weekend, I would have wanted to be in the McLaren debrief to hear everything. This weekend, I want to be in the Mercedes one to hear from the team explain to Lewis what happened. And obviously, everyone online's now commenting saying, "Oh, Mercedes screwed over Lewis." Oh, shut up. Do I think Mercedes intentionally screwed over Lewis? No, I don't. George was the one that made that decision. You could hear him over the radio. They were obviously debating whether he was going on a 2 or a 3 stop. George himself said that that's what they were speaking about, and George was like, guys, can we consider the 1 stop here? He said, he was like, my tyres felt great. I felt like one with the car, one with the track, and it just was so easy, and it was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I don't think there's any malicious intent towards Lewis Hamilton this weekend. I just don't see it. Lewis raced brilliantly. George raced brilliantly. It is amazing that George Russell managed to make a set of hard tyres last 37 laps. 34? 37. What was it? 34. 34. Still amazing. Absolutely incredible. Nobody could have predicted that. Nobody thought a 1 stop really would work in Spa. Let's be honest. We all thought we were getting 2 stops. George Russell, the tyre whisperer. Just phenomenal work from George, actually. Phenomenal work. Last weekend it was McLaren with the spicy debriefs. This weekend it's Mercedes. As I said, here we go. Oh my God. Oh my God. He's been disqualified. Oh my God, he's been disqualified. Absolutely insane. He's actually been disqualified. It's a slam dunk disqualification. His car was underweight. It's a breach of the regulations. It wasn't exactly a long deliberation by the stewards. So, congratulations, Lewis Hamilton. Am I devastated for George? 100%. That man drove a phenomenal race, an incredible race. He was 34 laps on a hard tyre, a 1-stop round Spa. And you could tell he got out of the car, he was so emotional, and I'm so devastated for him. What a shame, poor man. But congratulations, Lewis Hamilton, winner of the Belgian Grand Prix. Right, well, as I said, I'm absolutely devastated for him, but it's one of these things, you can't help it. It doesn't make his drive any less incredible. Let's put it at that. It doesn't negate the fact that that man raced an incredible race. All right, now finally, the Red Bull Racing drivers, and Sergio Perez qualified third, started second, finished 8th, And Max Verstappen, who qualified first, started 11th, finished 5th. Great racing from Max to have qualified first, taken that grid penalty because you've got new engine parts, and then to get 5th. Fantastic. I have no negative notes really about Max. We didn't get any outbursts. He seemed to ask the pit wall a little bit more when Lando had put new mediums on and was, pushing towards Max. Max had radioed and said, like, is Lando pushing? Should I be pushing? Like, do you want me to push? And that's when GP was like, yeah, go for it, mate. There was another point when he was coming up behind Perez and Lando, I think it was. It was either Perez and Lando or Perez and Oscar. I think it was Perez and Lando. And he asked the pit wall again. He was like, can I, go on the attack here? Like, can I go for it? And GP was like, yeah, have a go, mate. On you go. Which is unusual for Max. He never really asks those questions. He usually just goes for it. Maybe we don't hear that, but seemed like he might have been just a little bit reserved this weekend after his explosive nature over the radio last weekend. So yeah, I've got no faults with Max's drive whatsoever. It was just one of those weekends. He wasn't the quickest car. Just the stars weren't aligned for him to win. I thought he was actually going to win coming into the race, but however, his teammate Sergio Perez started second. How Perez didn't finish on a podium, I don't know. He should have finished on that podium. I just don't understand it. And I think he's quite cocky in saying that, well, it's not like I've forgotten how to drive and, stop talking about my performance because I've got a contract and I'm a good driver. You're not proving to anyone that you actually know how to drive one of these cars and that you actually are deserving of a contract with this team. Honestly, it baffles me. I will say that Checo's main issue seems to be his qualifying. He just can't seem to qualify great. However, he qualified P3. He started the race P2. A podium this weekend was a clear opportunity, and it was the most obvious that Perez should have been fighting for that, not P8 where he finished. I think today has shown that Perez is not able to drive his Red Bull to the same standard as the other 7 drivers in those top 4 teams. And I would say it's a shame, but I'm kind of over thinking that it's a shame that Perez is not performing. It's so obviously clear that he's not suitable to be in that car, and Christian Horner and Perez, and they can all say whatever they want, but I actually think there's other drivers that are probably more deserving to sit in that team alongside Max. I will say that if his seat is at risk, this driver's done nothing to save it. And I would say that a Daniel Ricciardo gamble is completely justifiable in my opinion. Completely justifiable. Karun on the broadcast today said that Red Bull's clear choice was to hope that Perez gets better, because there's no guarantee that Liam Lawson, Yuki Tsunoda or Daniel Ricciardo will perform any better than Checo. I would counter that and say Red Bull don't have the ability to see out Checo's bad performance. They are at threat of losing the constructors. And I would also say that regardless of who you stick in that car in place of Perez, whether it be Ricciardo, Tsunoda or Lawson, they can't do any worse. He just needs to do better, and if he can't do better, which clearly he can't, then why is he here? What is going on? From what I can see, he can't actually do any better, so I'm going to say it's time to cut the cord. And I think that might come in the summer break. I still believe it. Christian Horner can say whatever he likes, Checo can say whatever he likes. I still believe that Perez could be getting dropped this summer break. And that is everything from us after a banger of a Belgian Grand Prix. Who'd have thought we would have been coming into this with George Russell winning the Belgian Grand Prix, doing a one-stop, 34 laps on a hard tyre, only to then get disqualified. As I said, I feel absolutely devastated for the man, and it must feel awful. But what a way to round out the first half of the season before going on summer break. What a cliffhanger we are now on coming into the summer break. As I said, I think a lot of the drivers will be quite relieved we're going into summer break. I think they are probably a little bit tired, maybe a little bit battered up, ready for 3 weeks just to recenter everything, realign everything, and figure out the goals for the rest of the year, how they're going to attack them, and go for it. We've got 10 races left this season. We'll be back in 3 weeks. It's now like game time. It's game on. Like, let's go. I think we're in for a spicy 10 races. Like, we're going to see some great racing. The field has never been closer. Could we see Checo? This season has literally shown that anything can happen in F1. Anything. But yeah, that is everything from us. But don't worry, we will be back throughout the 3 weeks. We obviously have some driver ratings coming up. As I said, I would be mighty grateful if you could fill out the Google form below rating all the drivers. We are going to make some bold predictions for the rest of the 2024 Formula One season, and a few more things going out over those 3 weeks. So don't worry, I am not leaving you high and dry. But yeah, that is everything from us. But enjoy the 3 weeks off from Formula One. I will probably not know what to do with myself about 3 days into it, but I'm sure I'll be able to keep myself occupied. As I said, I'm sure there will be plenty news to keep up with. I imagine that we'll come into the next 10 races knowing our driver lineup for 2025. Fingers crossed. I just want to know where Carlos Sainz is going, to be honest with you. But enjoy the summer break. Have a lovely rest of your day. I love you. Bye.